Hi everyone, and welcome to OurVentura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. Thank you for joining us. On today's show, I'd like to welcome Mr. Julian Dillon. He is the LA Director of the American Diabetes Association, and also Steve Moore. He is someone who is living with diabetes, and he's going to share his story with us. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us on the program today. Well, let's get started. We have a lot to talk about with the American Diabetes Association. We'll start with you, Julian. I'd like to talk about the alarming rate that diabetes is climbing and being diagnosed with so many people in California today, especially children and teens as well. So let's talk about that.
Sure. So right now, 10% of the population of California have diabetes. Mm-hmm. To put that on a more national level, you are talking about 30 million Americans living with diabetes.
Okay.
But there's another 86 million who have pre-diabetes. So that simply means the warning signs are there. And one of the challenges that we have at the American Diabetes Association is to make sure those 86 million don't become part of that 30 million living with diabetes.
Okay.
So, because we are looking at a future, if that happens, where 1 in 3 of every adult will have diabetes. And if your viewers want to help themselves imagine that next time they are behind, say, a school bus and there's some children getting off the bus, look at those kids, count them. 1/3 of those children will have diabetes by the time they get to their mid-adulthood. Also, if they happen to be from a minority, such as if they're Latino or African American, it's going to be half the kids on the bus.
That's a scary thought. There are 2 types of diabetes that we deal with. Let's talk about that real quick.
Absolutely. So there's type 1 and type 2. And for those who may remember, we used to call these juvenile diabetes, which is now type 1, and adult onset diabetes, which is type 2. So I'm not a medical person, so I'm going to put this in very simple terms.
Good.
If we were with type 1 diabetes, your pancreas, which creates insulin, which is where you get your energy and how it all works, simply isn't working.
Okay.
The beta cells are attacking themselves and not functioning at all. With type 2, it's kind of sort of working, but not really. So it's sort of like if you have a car that just doesn't work, you know you've got to take it to the mechanic. But if you have a car that kind of works, you're always trying, well, maybe I'll see if I can get to work today, and then the next thing you're stuck at a light and the car won't start.
Okay. Steve, let's turn it over to you now. As someone who has diabetes,
yes,
and you've had it for several years now, tell us which type you have and some of the warning signs that were apparent to you when you were diagnosed.
I'm a type 1 diabetic, and the warning signs for me were rapid weight loss because of the high diabetes, the glucose levels. My thirst was unquenchable. I was drinking water constantly and also then urinating constantly. And those were the the top 3 reasons I knew I had a problem, but also since I wasn't absorbing the sugar, I was very tired too.
And living with diabetes, how would you say that your life has changed? I would imagine your lifestyle has changed.
I had to make a choice, and I didn't make that choice right away.
Right.
Is to change my lifestyle.
Okay, good.
And once you make a choice, you have to change your diet.
Okay.
And it's not the end of the world. It's just a matter of carb counting and balancing the amount of insulin you're taking with the amount of food you're eating.
Okay.
It's the long road, and that's part of the education is the diet. I start moving, is exercise, and sleep.
Oh, okay.
You have to sleep.
Really? Okay, so those are all good things to know. So really, just getting up and moving a lot, changing your diet, and kind of rearranging things a little bit really can make a difference for somebody who's living with diabetes.
Do the little things, when you're going through this and changing your lifestyle, do the little things you know you can do and stick to. Start drinking more water.
Okay.
Once you master that and it gets to be where it's not so hard, move on to something else and master. You have the rest of your life. Make these changes slowly.
Good. Julian, let's talk about educating the public about diabetes and some of the warning signs that people should look for, and what would be apparent to people if they need to get checked by their doctor.
Well, one of the things I would recommend people do is go to our website, which is diabetes.org, which is very easy to remember.
Good.
And you'll see there's something called a risk test. And you can go in there, and this is not a scientific test. This is a way of finding out for yourself. And it's going to ask you certain questions. It's going to ask you things about your weight, your height. Is there a history of diabetes in your family? It's going to ask you if you have problems with high blood pressure, and then it's going to give you a score.
Oh,
And this is going to alert you as to whether you might have something called pre-diabetes, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the warning sign.
Okay.
It's also a signal that you should go and talk to your doctor.
Right.
And it's very important, and I can't stress this enough, that every time you go to your doctor, ask them to check your glucose levels. Ask them to find out if you are in any way on a path towards diabetes or if you have diabetes, because it is a manageable disease. Unfortunately, there is no cure for type 1 or type 2.
Okay.
But it is manageable, and Steve has just done a very good job of describing how you get started managing it.
So managing your weight, your blood pressure, your physical activity, your diet, those are all some key components that we're going to find that will make a difference.
Absolutely, and I think it's also important, as Steve mentioned, to not try to run before you can walk. So somebody suddenly hearing they had to change their diet might think they can never eat their favorite food again.
Right.
Well, that's not actually true.
Okay.
We talk about portion control. You may love hamburgers, for example.
Sure.
Well, maybe the news is you're not going to have a hamburger every day of the week.
Okay.
But you might be able to have one, say, once a week. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, so don't take my word literally on this.
Right.
If I could put it another way, we have you can take a plate and you can divide it roughly into 2 quarters and 1/2, and it should be divided as the 3 basic food groups. Now you can take that image and you can spread it out across a week, and then across a month, and then across your entire life. And that means every so often you can say, you know, I've done well this week.
Good.
So I can have that burger.
Right.
Or crucially, my child who has diabetes is going to a birthday party, and this often comes up.
Sure.
That the child is left on the side and told they can't have the cake, either because the parent hosting the birthday party is worried, or perhaps someone in school is worried, a school staff person.
Right.
Again, you put it into the bigger perspective.
Okay.
You measure it out, you say, okay, you can have a birthday cake.
Yeah.
Just can't do it every day of the week.
And you bring up a good point of children and teens, of course. The diabetes numbers are up for kids. It's really alarming. So it's really time to do something about that. Is there kind of a checklist for parents to kind of keep an eye on?
Again, it's the same criteria. So it's looking, if your child is drinking a lot of water, urinating a lot, very cranky, you know, eating a lot, losing weight, all these kind of contradictory signs. Now, I have to say, each one of those can be nothing to do with diabetes. I think we all have children who can get a little cranky at times.
And it's important that you check with your doctor before you do anything.
But if you see these signs, especially if you have a history of diabetes in your family, because that does statistically increase the chances of type 2 diabetes, not type 1, what Steve has.
Right.
That, unfortunately, in a sense, just falls from the sky, like some diseases do.
Right. Okay. I noticed you have a very interesting cycling jersey
Our
on.
jersey, yes.
So I have to ask, you must be now into cycling, and I wanted to hear about the race that the American Diabetes Association does have every year.
We do have an event yearly in the fall. It's the Tour de Cure, which started out as a cycling event.
Okay.
And this is the jersey that anyone who participates in the Tour de Cure who is living with diabetes type 1, type 2 is represented by wearing one of these jerseys.
Okay.
And so on the route, you can see anybody wearing a Red Ryder jersey is what this is called. You have people scream out, "Go Red Ryder." And
is that right? Oh,
yeah.
That's great. That's good. Now, do they have other events?
Now, it's been 2 years now, and we're going on our 3rd year. They have introduced a walk, and a
Nice.
run.
Okay.
So there's something for everybody, and it's an event for all abilities. And it also is a ride, walk, run, not a race.
Okay.
So there's no pressure. You're just participating in an event that allows you to be in an environment with other diabetics, people living with the same issues you're living with, communicating with each other, and hopefully getting more involved in the cure.
Absolutely. And what about kids? Are they invited too?
Everybody's welcome.
So it's for all age groups then?
All age groups.
That's
and
good.
It's there's no, you don't have to be an Ironman to do
Good.
this
Well,
event.
that's good, because I'm sure a lot
Anybody
of
can
people
do it.
would be very interested if they know they can go at their own pace
It's
too.
a great way to get involved with making a difference. It's easy. It's easy to,
And when do they have the event?
It's this year, but we're not. It's usually in every fall.
Okay.
And the locations might change, but it's every year in the fall, and
And we can get information on the website.
Absolutely.
The website.
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
if you go to diabetes.org and then add /Los Angeles Tour de Cure.
narrow the field.
Though I don't want people to feel it's all about LA, because we have lots of people from Ventura County involved, from San Bernardino, you name
sure.
it. It's a big cross-country event.
When, as we were talking about children and teens, I understand you have a camp here in Ventura County that does help a lot of kids out here.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Absolutely. We do that every year.
Okay.
We do it at the end of the summer.
Great.
It's called Project Power. We do one right here in Oxnard.
Nice.
We also do one in Santa Clarita. We do them in LA. We do them in the Inland Empire.
Okay.
They are completely free.
Nice.
And the idea
that's
is to speak to the issue of pre-diabetes.
Okay.
So these are children who have in some way been identified as having the warning signs of diabetes.
Good.
But so what they're brought in, and we talk about, as we've been talking about a bit here, they talk about their nutritional choices, they talk about them getting active, but they frame it in a way that the child can relate to. Because we often have children who are not active because they don't like, say, group sports, or they don't like the competitive nature. Well, we find other ways to engage them and other ways for them to identify activity. But the other wonderful thing about it is most families that I know of, there's only one refrigerator in the kitchen.
Yes.
So we don't just bring in the child with the diabetes, we bring in their siblings. And then on the second day, we bring in the parents.
Okay.
So everybody learns to understand the signs of diabetes, the possible solutions to prevent a child with pre-diabetes actually turning into a child with type 2 diabetes.
Okay. If you can, please share the website with us one more time for those folks who may want to volunteer or perhaps donate to the American Diabetes Association here.
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful to share with us.
So if you want to just go to our general website, it's diabetes.org.
Okay.
If you're interested in the Tour de Cure, just add diabetes.org/Los Angeles Tour de Cure.
Good.
Now, if you're specifically interested in the camp, please call us, because we would like to talk to you and make sure we can guide you into the correct camp.
Okay.
And the number is 323-966-2890.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us today and
Thank you.
sharing your stories about the American Diabetes Association, which is so very important to so many people here. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us on OurVentura TV. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone. I'm Sandra Siepak.